Yeah. So, hello and welcome everyone to the Meshery development meeting. Uh, as on Wednesday. So, by convention, like we greet some newcomers and let them know. Let us know each other better. Well, so I think Deepesha, you have joined this call for the first time, right?
Yeah,
And Adam also.
yeah.
So we already have some minor chit chats, but if you can just tell us like where are you from and what you're doing right now, that would be
Yeah, of
great
course.
to see.
So I'm from Pune, India. I'm in my third year right now. I'm doing engineering, and I've been contributing to the articles of Layer 5, but I wanted to slowly get into code contributions. So I thought I'd start attending meetings and see, what's going on. So yeah, that's why I joined.
That's awesome. Yeah, you're welcome. And Adam.
Yeah, I'm Adam. Yeah, hello. I'm Adam from Poland. Right now, based in Caribbean islands. I'm looking forward to participate in some of Go-like projects, but don't know yet which one.
Yeah, there are enough Golang things here, so Ashish would be a better person to connect. But yeah, welcome to you. So yeah, let's move ahead with the our first agenda item in the list. And the first item is by Pranav. So Pranav, you are there, right?
Yeah, actually, can we circle back to my topic? I'm setting up my Kubernetes. So
That's fine. Then the next topic is Uzair's validation of patterns file in Meshery UI.
yes, I'm sharing. So this is regarding adding validation to pattern files and utilizing the /validate endpoint that Nitish added. Like we are using the schema, the value, and the value type, that is JSON or anything, and we are validating the pattern files based on that. So currently we are not utilizing this endpoint anywhere in the UI. So I try to utilize that. So basically, in this pattern file, I have made the replicas as a string, which is invalid, and then I'm hitting that endpoint, and I get an error that the field is invalid, like conflicting values, and one more error like container is required field. This is not complete. I have to present the error in the modal that you are seeing here. I have one concern, like if you will see this, what you can say, the buttons here, undeploy, deploy, verify. What should be the order of the first deploy or verify? What should be the order?
Verify first, then deploy. And verify would just be a single check. Right?
Yes.
Maybe you already said that. I missed it. Yeah. The validate is a little like generally the way that it would conceptually go for most is that they would verify or validate before they, choose to provision or make this configuration change or provision that infrastructure. And so yeah, that's like a pre-provisioning activity, a pre-deployment activity. Generally, at some point, we might have enough actions that we would have to have a little bit of a different design on the card, but that's not. We're not there just yet, I don't think. There are at some point we'll have enough actions that will start to qualify what's appropriate pre-provisioning, what's appropriate post-provisioning, and we might be able to, I don't know, I don't know if this would ever be true. We can be, Meshery is intelligent enough to determine whether or not a given design has been applied to any given cluster. And so in concept, if a design is already deployed, maybe it would just show the undeploy button. The thing is that's not always the case. You might want to deploy it a number more times, and maybe to different. Maybe you just want to idempotently reapply the design, or maybe you want to deploy it to a different cluster. And so anyway, I'm just speaking out loud about the possibilities of how these buttons, these actions might unfold in the future. And yeah, so it's a good question. We also should be consistent about the use of either verify or validate, like the verb choice. And they can, from my perspective, you can almost interpret them synonymously. So we do want to imbue meaning to each and begin to teach users that ultimately there would be a difference between verify and validate. And Uzair, do you have a sense of what that difference would be?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, so we, actually, I'll tell you. We might have, there might be two different verbs, verify and validate in the future. Right now, we just have one capability. Well, yeah, one function, one capability that works really well, which is to validate locally or validate the design in terms of YAML, in terms of whether or not the required fields are filled in. It's kind of a client-side validation. We also have the ability, as you know, to do a dry run, to like, well, I take it back. Like dry run is a bigger word. Oh, geez, I opened up a can of worms. So Meshery has the ability to, on the client side, take a look at the design that you're creating and let you know that you're either missing required fields, like, hey, if you've said that you want to deploy a pod, there needs to be at least one container. Okay, if there's going to be a container, there has to be, you have to identify what container image you'd like to deploy. Okay, kind of a, and so if you don't fill in a container image in this YAML, Meshery is intelligent enough to tell you right here, oops, hey, you're missing something. And some of this that I'm saying, like Uzair, I know that you already know this. I'm saying this in part for the benefit of others, and also to help clarify where we're going, what we have today. We do want for the terms verify, validate, dry run to all actually be a little bit different and to support them all. So there's this client side validate, maybe is the word. I think that's the word that we're using elsewhere as well. Then there's this concept of that's that like client sort of validate, meaning did I put in all the required, like on paper, does my design look okay? Kind of on paper, okay, great, validate. There'd be a next step where you might ask, ask Meshery, hey, in context of the Kubernetes clusters, in context of the infrastructure that I'm running currently, maybe I'm running a service mesh, maybe I'm running a couple of clusters. Meshery, can you verify, maybe is the term that we use. Maybe we need to use a different term to make it, really different. But you would ask Meshery server to take a look at your valid design, because you've already validated it. You've got all the required entities filled in. Taking my valid design, Meshery server, will you assess and build out a directed acyclic graph of this design being applied to that environment, like to this Kubernetes cluster or maybe multiple clusters, and then let me know if everything's kosher, like if it should work. And that's a big old question. There's aspects of that Meshery might miss, but that's somewhat desirous by end users, I would say. And I'm certainly want to hear from everybody else in the call. the thing that I think is, there's one more step that I think is probably even more interesting to users or equally as interesting. And that is more of what you might refer to as a dry run. Okay, which, okay. The dry run being actual, well, yeah, I think people could pick argument with how I'm splitting up the terms.
I have my opinion. Like verification is something that you like checks like static method, like something easy to run, and validation is more complex, more dynamic. Maybe we can check some definition from like testing, verification versus validation, like Venn diagram, because for sure there is some intersection, correct? But some things are more closer to validation and some for verification.
Yeah, Adam, well, I don't know where my voice went today, but that term that you used, static, boy, that's a great distinction between, like, yeah, static analysis of just assessing whether or not you have a valid design. That's a great. And then,
like a syntax check.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. This other concept of, sometimes you'll look at other tools like SQL or Terraform. They have this word, they'll use this verb called this verb plan. So you might do a SQL plan or a Terraform plan, and it basically takes your design, your SQL query, your Terraform design, and assesses, builds it, sort of does the data, it takes a look at it, assesses whether or not it's going to be successful. Not just static analysis, but like, what would it look like if you actually ran this thing? And
yeah. So in context of Terraform at first verify the syntax if it's correct, and then doing a plan. So if you have like creating resources on AWS, it needs to dynamically check what resources it needs to create, what data it needs to just to get the metadata, and then based on validation, create a plan. So more dynamic things, correct?
Yeah, in context of, to not repeat what you just said, but to maybe use SQL as an example, that the SQL plan would come back and have assessing your current database. It'll come back and let you know. It'll give you a sense of how long it'll take to run that query. It'll say, well, it'll take a look at the indexes, take a look at the tables, and sort of. This is probably further than what SQL plan normally does, but yeah, ideally Meshery would say, well, if you're looking as you're running this dry run or this plan action, and you're looking to potentially deploy this against this cluster and this cluster, here we think it's going to work. Here's how we think it's going to work and work well on this cluster, and here's where it might fail on this cluster. Yeah. Basically, I'm just repeating what Adam said, which is, then there's this other concept, and I think I'm making things more complicated than they really need to be, which is I thought that there's this concept of like a test run, which is like, not just doing logical assessment of whether you think it's going to work or not, but like actually deploying the thing in a transient way, verifying that it was successful, and then, undoing that. But thinking aloud with you all, I don't know that a test run is like, if someone wants to do a test run, they'll probably click deploy. They'll point it to their test cluster or to some other environment that they have. They'll point it to the dev cluster, not to the prod cluster, and they'll do their test that way. So it would seem like we wouldn't have to have another action.
And what about just streamlining the process on the validate part? And whenever the user tries to save a new design, like, I don't know, I haven't tried it yet, but is there some kind of restriction on hey, this is invalid. Like, not saying that the validate button would go away, but maybe if the save process would include that kind of check, static check of if there's some syntax problem, maybe that would be better, right? To be aware of that sooner rather than later.
Yeah, it really is. It really is, because you're only going to ultimately disappoint the user if they fill in the form, they forgot an item, they come back, they save it, they design it, come back to deploy it. It says, oh, you forgot something. It's like, no. To your point, just show them on the form.
Yeah, less actions to, to figure out something's wrong, right?
And yep, and that's there today. But I think Harkarat is working on improving some of that UX as well. So it could be a good thing to demo at some point.
Just in the design configurator as well, we show some errors, like if it is an auto valid YAML file. So thank you all for the feedback. And one small thing, like recently a good first issue has been opened. I would like to describe like what the desired behavior we want. Basically, if you try to delete your last cluster or only available cluster, Meshery would not allow you to delete that, and this error message will get pop up like we have only one context and aborting delete operation. So this is not the desired behavior, and users should be able to delete all the connected clusters, because Meshery is not only related to Kubernetes. You can also perform other tasks without cluster. So this is only a pure UI issue, and it is very easy for the newcomers. So please look into this.
Great discussion. So,
Can you share a link to
Yeah,
that
so-
issue? Please.
ask a link to the issue, Mario.
Yes, I will share.
That's good. Thank
So
you.
please. Thanks. Let's move on to the next item by internet, which is Go 1.17 to 1.19 update.
Good morning. So at this time with the Go 1.17 to 1.19 upgrade, I have started on the other project, the smaller ones that shouldn't be, it shouldn't have any impact on the changes. So far, the only ones that have been changed right now are the, let's see, I can share just real quick. Or not. No, it's okay. So at this point, I only have the, okay. Okay, so I just updated the item this morning to reflect the ones that are currently in progress. So I'm working on the mesh kit, the Meshery operator mesh sim, and then a couple other items. The ones that have been done in merge are the Meshery Cloud and Meshery console. And then these are the items that are will be started soon. So far, most of the changes I have done are just basically upgrading to 1.19, and then just a couple of small upgrade on packages that will not break the build. And anything else that needs a refactor, it would be under a different issue or PR. And there is another thing that I do want to mention. There was a integration test that I had a question about. I wanted to update the information, the version for it, but I actually commented on it and said that maybe we need to do a refactor so that it would be a lot easier to get the integration test going, so that it would take the latest version instead of having to manually change it. But that's just an idea that can be, done over time instead of just in one sitting. But that's my update on this part. Any questions?
Yeah, Antoinette, do you mind scrolling down just a little bit? So the ones that are done, yeah, very good. Okay. Yeah, very good. No one has seen an issue with Meshery console just yet, that adapter, to my knowledge, which gives us hope that the broader list of the rest of the adapters would be, that we wouldn't have an issue.
Yes, you are correct, only in that I didn't make any drastic change to it where it will break. So the only thing that I found was that there's a need to refactor the open telemetry, but that's not an item that is it's not an important item that needs to do right now, but it can be something that can be enhanced over time. And then also the console has a refactor on the Helm, needs a refactor on the Helm chart because it's using an older version and they have moved to a different different URL location. And so that's one others, but like I said, that's another item that can be done over time. The only thing I found that will cause a break was a where is it? Let's see. Make sure that oh, that one. The adapter library and the adapter library needs a refactor on the open telemetry also, which all the adapter is dependent on. And some of the, if you build the images, they will all have similarities with the Thrift, the net, and the Helm that needs to be updated. So Helm can be updated, no problem. But the Thrift is dependent on the open telemetry, which causes an issue somewhere like this. So that's the only thing that I have not done because it's all similar on all of the adapter libraries. So the only thing I did was just a minor upgrade. And then as soon as we work through the others, I will make issues on what I come across, and then we can get those fixed, and then we can move on to a full upgrade. But the way it is now, it can be, but it'll just be a partial upgrade.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, this is a good time to call for volunteers. The Helm chart issue where the console the Meshery adapter for console, it has an old link, and that link points to HashiCorp console's Helm charts. If anybody's looking to get their feet wet with Golang in the project, that particular issue is a good starter. It's a great starter issue. So
Yeah,
can I
and
pick it up?
yeah, sure. And I can show you where as soon as I find it, and we can just go over, and I can show you where it is, where you can change the link. Hopefully it would just be the link that needs to be updated, but some of it might need to be refactored to point towards the new link, because they also have an issue about some upgrade. So we just need to keep an eye on that as well. But yeah, we can sync up, and I'll kind of walk you through on that.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
that's great. So by the way, this is, one of the things that the project has had outstanding for a while is, some negative marks in terms of security vulnerabilities. And the overwhelming majority of those vulnerabilities can be addressed by upgrading dependencies. And so getting to the latest version of Go, that will grease the wheels for a better report card, a better security report card. One of the report cards that we're using today, by the way, can be seen on Artifact Hub. If you find the Meshery Helm chart on Artifact Hub, there's container image scanning that happens there, and you can see how we're doing. See the progress.
Okay, great. So yeah, moving to the next item, or I should say the previous that we missed by Pranav. So circling back to the first item, which is fixed invalidation of pattern files.
Yeah, I'll just share my screen. So the problem was that I was going through the Easter after testing workflows, and I realized that when it applies a pattern file, then there was this error about validation. This problem, like, let me show you what pattern file it's applying. It's the one which we have on a service mesh patterns repository. That is this one. And the problem was with container port, specifically this key. This is because we recently added a prettification. We improved our prettification logic in which even before storing even before storing any definition, we are prettifying all the keys and then we are storing it. So the problem was that in the stored definition, the container port was saved as container/port, as you can see in this error also. It is looking for container space port, but in the key of the actual pattern file is container port. So that was leading to an error. So what I did was I updated our logic over here in which before validating a workload, I added I added that if it was it should be prettified. All the keys of the settings should be prettified before validating, and then after validation it automatically deprettifies it. So because of that, all the our existing pattern file would be validated and there wouldn't be any bugs in this workflow as well. So yeah, that was my small issue. Any feedback on this?
Okay, so the reason a while back I actually moved some logic around it, and the reason I might have skipped this is because at that time, whenever we use designer or whenever we use the design configurator, we always get the YAML where the keys are spaced, evenly spaced and all, right, Pranav? So this kind of this kind of is has uniform behavior. So even if you don't have spacing, and even if you have spacing, the behavior would be exactly the same. The only caveat would be because we maintain a dictionary, so I'm yet to I'm yet to come across a YAML with the with spaced key where the key is like where the key itself has spacing, and here because we are manually eliminating the space, so that might be a problem. But if we come across that kind of a key, we can add that into the dictionary. If you already know about some key which has spacing in it, because generally people use camel case and nobody use spaces directly. So I think for the most part, this will fix. This is an okay fix, I guess.
Okay. Yeah. So that's the small update. And the second thing on this is that I also updated our Meshkit dictionary recently. Meshkit dictionary basically helps us to add some extra words which should be given special preferences when showing them on design configurator. We already had design configurator is, if I could just design configurator helps you to create your patterns by using all the component which was dynamically generated by Meshery. This will help you to create your patterns and then deploy them onto your cluster. And the problem was that there was a new word which needs to be added, that is CA bundle. And actually before my change, it used to the CA bundle was like, again, it was some problem in the prettification logic, so it need to be given extra preference. So I updated the CA bundle to capital CA bundle. So that will just help us show the right words in the right form. So this is just one more small update. Yeah, that's all from my side.
Thanks, Pranav. So the next item is by me, which is need for A2A test for designs, applications and filters. So the configuration menu we have three constructs, like high level constructs which we manage, which are applications, filters and designs. So all these require some test for the quality of how they should be given to the users. So there has been a lot number of operations that can be done with the help of design this design window, like you can see deploy and deploy, cloning and all, as well as for the applications and filter. And there is another thing inside the design that which is called design configurator, where you can create your designs and modify the existing ones. So yeah, so the basic thing that is here is all these operations when someone does some changes around it, so something it sometimes creates side effects that go unnoticed because of the lack of integration test or end-to-end test. So there is a need of writing a very well all the code coverage and everything, like writing a test that covers all these scenarios where import designs can be tested, then catalog can be tested, then create design can be tested, then all these workflow need to be tested upon. And there has been some work previously around it, around filter spec only, but after the GraphQL updates, like all these all these all these items are now fetched or updated based on the GraphQL resolver. So after that, these tests got some problems because previously they were all relying on the API calls. So though these were commented, so there is a need to uncomment all these tests. This is filter spec, but the more important is the design spec and applications spec. So need to create a new set of tests, which is test suite for applications, designs, and filters, and uncommenting. And we already have some problems, which is the second part that I think Gaurav will add up something to it, which is problems with his. He's implementing some of the GraphQL changes that we have come across after moving from API, what's called REST API. So he has been getting some problems around testing the request sent and received in the form of GraphQL queries and subscriptions. So Gaurav, you might like to add something here.
Yeah, so related to the GraphQL query and mutations, that new request has for fetching the catalog content and filters as well, and in designs, we're using GraphQL, and for that I have added GraphQL Utilities. So if you could navigate to that, I've added a link in meeting minutes. Yep, that GQL Utilities. Yeah, so by using this GQL Utilities, so we have to set the operation name and the request body according to the request that we are sending for fetching the filters and designs. And I have also created an issue. So Mario is recently looking on that particular issue, because previously Mario has like created the whole end-to-end and the filter spec. So yeah, so this particular utility function will be used over there. It is already added in Meshery.
Yeah, this is also a call for volunteer for everyone to jump on their Cypress test and get acquainted with it. Like that's a great help to the project, and it will improve the overall quality of the project you're seeing. Second, I think these two are the same, right? Somewhere related, or
Yeah.
You have talked to it. Okay, so I think the only other thing that I mentioned right now is about the need for E2E test for designs, applications, and filters. And these are the tests that the first set of tests that anyone can try writing. There are, as I said, there is already a test that is written for filter spec. So it needs to be uncommented and retested. So yeah, that's one of the things that we want. So second item from me is need for some refactors and pattern if you're seeing this is design configurator, and this has been there for a long time. The code changes has there is no code change done up from like since I don't know 6-7 months. So that needs some I mean, we were thinking about the UX improvements here, so that it can be presented to the lot of majority of people with more context of what is being visible here and what they can do with it. So most of the things, like I myself get confused, like I implemented this, but I myself get confused about why it is here. So these require some again new set of eyes for the UI and UX improvement. And again, since the code is for a very long time, so it may some of the, I mean, that very much needs some kind of refactor to make it more optimized and make the code more cleaner, because the iteration one is always in a very speedy manner. So we need to do some iteration 2, 3, 4 to make it look better and to maintain the code. So nice. So that's also something that we need help on, which is the design configurator refactors and UX improvements. Then yeah, so I think this is just we just talked about this Cypress spec that needs help. Mario wrote it originally, the spec you're seeing, but as we saw that we have just moved to GraphQL subscriptions for updating all these things. So meanwhile, the tests were kind of invalidated because it was written based on expecting that everything is being done with the help of REST APIs. So that's not the case anymore. That's why it's not here. So that's why it needs revamp. So yeah, the last item, I mean, I'm just talking. So yeah, do you have any questions or comments here around Cypress test, and any volunteer that like to work on it? So they can contact on the there is one private channel which is CI. There is two channels especially for the test. So one is CI and the other is Cypress testing channel. So they can heads up there and on the call also. So if you're interested anyhow, you can put your name here also. That would be picked up. And yeah, you okay. So I hope
I have something. So I left some Slack messages around the progress on the GraphQL utility, like the updates for like the whole configuration. And so there's this problem where the the browser refreshes like eternally, like it runs into an infinite refresh loop. So I'm not 100% sure what's the problem, and I've been trying to debug it, but I don't know. Maybe I need to. Well, I was actually already. I did minor changes to the utility, um, so that it finds the operation. But yeah, so maybe we can take a look offline because. But yeah, it's really not something. I don't see it like good first issue because of the complexity with that. I don't know. But yeah, I guess we can take a look offline. But I did start so hopefully we can figure out what's the problem. I mean, I was trying basically with integration test, and I recall we shouldn't be requiring to like to set the non-provider or anything like that. But yeah, let's take a look offline then, just to not absorb the remaining minutes of the call. It might take a bit longer.
And we can connect later after. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you.
We can connect later after the call. And one of the key factor, I mean, key consideration in the integration test is that server should be stopped. Like that's the way we are. So I hope it's, I mean, it's not running right. We'll look into it after the call, Mario. The last item is the UX review of upload applications by URL. So yesterday I was just uploading an application with the URL, and let's grab this one as the URL. the application URL. And if I go with import applications, and if I upload URL, so the request that I will be sending is to Helm chart endpoint. I don't know, like, and when since this is a Kubernetes manifest, I go in and change it to Kubernetes manifest, but that will, pops up the upload file menu, which is not required or kind of seems deceiving to me. So yeah, that needs some, I just picked it up for the call because that needs some, changes here to actually, if by any chance URL are only for supported for Kubernetes manifest, then probably the by default the request should be going to Kubernetes manifest itself, and not the other one, the Helm chart. So if I had to yeah, so let's assume that I have uploaded this application, and I'll click import, and that is sent to the Helm chart. So since it was not a Helm chart, so it is doomed to fail here. So yes, that's the thing that I wanted to.
Yeah, and so Abhi, what's your proposal for improved UX?
Yeah, so 2 questions before the proposal is the URL, does it only support the Kubernetes manifest? If yes, then there is no need to set something here. I mean, even if the Helm chart is selected, the request should be going to Kubernetes manifest for the successful upload of the application file. Other than that, if it's not the case, like anything can be URL, Docker Compose, Helm chart, or like anything, as I suppose, then clicking on it should not open an upload file case, because yeah, then I will go upload it. And that's the kind of, if you're doing it for the first time, and if you're not doing it for the first time, you get confused, like I get confused. So
yeah. So in part, I think what you're saying is that it might be a better user experience if the first question asked is for the user to identify the type of application they'd like to upload. Based on that, they might have to answer, they might get multiple choices from there. That ideally, if they do select something like a Helm chart, if the only supported file format that Meshery supports for Helm chart is a tar.gz, then if that's the case, then we should disallow the selection of a .yaml file, of a file ending the extension .yaml, because the user is bound to fail. And so, yeah, those preemptive, both of those make a lot of sense.
Another thing that I just noticed is, if I have to upload a Helm chart by the file, like I can't do it right now. Like I selected Helm chart, but I couldn't upload it by file until and unless I change to something and then go to Helm chart.
Yeah, because it was purposely disabled because of certain considerations that we undertook. Yeah, it was purposefully disabled.
Oh, I remember one second. Sorry. Sorry. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think me and Gaurav were talking about it while we are doing it. So I forgot. So yeah, that was the only thing that I wanted to.
Nice. Yeah, the proposal makes a lot of sense. Like the UX proposal makes a lot of sense. We should definitely. Since I'm speaking for just a moment, I want to grab the ball. I toss back to WebEx. I'm going to grab the ball. I wanted to point out Pankaj, who I think is on the call. I want to try to embarrass him to the extent that I can. Is he on the call? He's probably coming back because he's got a couple of agenda items. Well, now it's not as fun because I can't embarrass him. But Pankaj had recently joined the community as of coming up on a couple of months now. He's been pretty active on the discussion forum. And he's been, well, actually, I'm just reading it. So he's been reading posts. He's been answering a lot of questions is what he's been doing. He's even been going back in time and answering the questions. And it's really helpful. I can see why people like him so much. Okay, it would be easier to make fun of him if he was here, but we have to point it out. Like, it's very much appreciated. I know there's a couple of you on the call who've asked the questions there and have gotten your answers. If you've asked questions there and haven't gotten your answers, call it out. Like, let's get you those answers. If you've asked questions in Slack and haven't gotten your answers, go post on the forum and let's make sure that they get answered. That's great. So next time you see Pankaj, give him a nice razzing from me. So cool. Who's next? By the way, Matt Young pointed out a number of GraphQL resources. These are some good ones to dig through. We talked about some cleanups. The pattern configurator, the design configurator rather, needs to be the file name that's up there. It's too small. Can we open up an issue to make those a much bigger height and make sure that it's displayed in such a fashion that people understand that they can rename the file by clicking up there? Because it's a cookie crumb trail that is how it's presented to users, not a file naming trail. And so, also, if there's any UXers or if someone wants to, there's a bunch of UXers in the community. I don't know that there are any represented on the call here, but something that we need to highlight and request volunteers for is, well, on each of the Meshery UI pages, that each could use a little bit of enhancement. Like what Avi was just highlighting is rather straightforward, but also examples like what I just called out on the design configurator. All of the icons are, and I'll point the finger at me on this, but like they're all that sort of drab charcoal gray. And it just makes me feel sad looking at the buttons. They actually don't look animated. So anyway, we need some people to go take a look. So as we go to, we've got 10 minutes left. Okay, yeah. So Nishant, I think you're up.
Yeah, I don't have any updates as such because I was out last week, but this is what I'll be looking into. I noticed that the Meshery CTL integration tests are still failing on the latest master branch, and it has been a while since they're failing. And also there's a PR by internet that she made earlier to address that. So I'll look into that PR and help her in make the integration test successful.
Awesome. Very good. Great update. Next up is Ashish, and probably some Root Raj in here as well. Ashish, in case you're there, you're on mute, just in case you're speaking to this.
Hello. I'm
There you
audible.
are.
Okay. Yeah. So, okay. So my internet connection is a little unstable, so I'm turning my video off. Anyways, so this PR got merged a while back, which was about adding user-facing clean APIs for capability registry. So right now, whenever you open the UI, whenever you open you are on mesh map or you are on design configurator, a single API endpoint that is this API endpoint is being used /API/home/workload to fetch all of the registered components that we have at once, which kind of adds an overhead. And we would require a lot of, as we move to a new construct that we're calling mesh models, we would require a lot of fine graining and control over how we want to view our APIs. So, the APIs were changed as follows. And actually, this is not the updated one. I didn't update the description. The Excel sheet we have that encapsulates the API, it has been updated with the proper endpoints. And the remaining item from this is the docs update. So yeah, so here we'll have to, I guess we had I don't remember, but I guess we had a make command that used to auto generate these docs, but I couldn't, maybe I couldn't find it. Last time I told Gaurav to use that make command, but he said that we are actually doing it manually here. So I just need a little bit of clarification for those who have by now, up until now, worked on these this API reference docs, that how much of it is manual, because I actually see the commented lines which would be helpful to generate these things automatically. So so that should be used instead of manually updating it. So once we have those endpoints being reflected here, the second item would be for the UI to actually consume those APIs. So that is another point of discussion, that things would be a little bit faster as UI goes to consume these. So that's a whole another discussion. I just needed to point out that there is an issue that's needed to be opened for this thing, so that UI can move towards consuming the new API endpoints. And I'll draw a flow diagram, or maybe a bunch of basically what endpoints would be used to fetch what, which would be actually a REST API. This doc would be enough to reflect that after it is updated. So yeah, this was update from my side, and the action item is to update the docs with the changes that have been made inside of this PR.
Cool. Okay. So there's two issues to open. I think one is that there's missing API documentation for the capabilities registry. And then the second issue to open is the enhancement that you're referring to.
Yeah.
One thing that I want to, that's great. One thing I want to call out here, just in case it's not evident to everyone else, is that internal to Meshery is a registry, kind of similar to like a container registry. It's not a container registry. As a matter of fact, Matt Young in the past has pointed out that maybe it should be more like a container registry, where it would, store like OCI images and things like that. The internal registry in Meshery server, the API points for it have just been kind of refactored and enhanced for easier consumption, for more powerful consumption, more queries and filtering that can be done. The reason that this capabilities registry is important is that when a Meshery adapter is connected to a Meshery server, that adapter, whether it's to manage a service mesh, to do sophisticated performance analysis, or potential other adapters that might come forth, those adapters register and they inform Meshery server of their capabilities. And so right now, the way that those capabilities largely take shape is in the form of components that you can use to design and configure your infrastructure. Components like Kubernetes objects. So that's what's behind the capabilities registry currently. Ashish and Rutraj, as you continue to work in this area, one thing that is missing is, well, to use an older term, is sort of the MeshOps V1 registration of capabilities other than components. And that's why it's called the capabilities registry, is that some of the things that are registered are these components, like the Istio virtual service that's being represented here. Some of the capabilities that need to be registered would be, I'm trying to think of a different word, but not components, they would be capabilities, like the ability to provision Istio, as an example.
Actually, that is actually stored when the adapter registers, but that's not stored in the capability registry itself. That is stored inside another global variable, I guess, or something it is. And I don't remember the exact endpoint right now. It must be in here. When we query that, it actually returns us you have Istio, which has the MeshOps V1 that you're talking about. So it says that you can do, you can apply SMI configuration, you can do all those things. So whenever the adapter registers, as part of not as part of the registration process. As part of the registration process, it does all these things. But another thing that it does is that actually this is more like a so this is a push mechanism. The adapter starts up and registers all these capabilities. But there is another gRPC call where the adapter is actually the gRPC server, where Meshery server reaches out to the adapter. What are all your Meshops v1 capabilities, and the adapter replies back with I can apply. My name is this. I can apply service mesh configuration. I can do all the. I can install a service mesh, and that is covered in the Meshops v1 part. So this is a completely HTTP push approach, and where adapter is a client, and that is a gRPC approach where adapter is a gRPC server. So we are kind of using different approaches when it comes to Meshops v1 and v2. That's why the same registry is not being used.
When do we query the adapter for that?
In real time.
Yeah.
In real time, every single time that a Meshery UI page is loaded, which makes it a highly dynamic system, but it also makes it hard to persist designs, because those are ephemeral capabilities. So I'll open up an issue so we can kind of describe it a little bit better. It's not the most urgent item. It is good that the system, the Meshery deployment as a system, has a high level of dynamicism. So you can just bring an adapter as and when you'd like to, and have those capabilities represented in Meshery. Anyway, I'll be quiet. There's a little bit. It's a longer conversation, but having, in some respects, having two different systems is helpful. It's also hurtful to the extent that we're not doing it uniformly. And so we're at time. Did other folks? Yep. No, I guess we shouldn't ask that question. So Yash, hopefully you're ready to. Yash, if you could do a recording of just the state of the overhaul of Meshery UI.
Okay, but I can go through that quickly so that I can tell what the state is.
We're in a nasty habit of spilling over. I'm desperately trying for us to stop. I mean, I apologize. We should have watched the time a little bit more, but yeah, if you can just click record, and then send it out in either on the Discuss forum or in an email or in Slack or what have you. It'd be good for everybody to see where we're at.
Okay, I will do that.
Great. So we missed Yash, Pankaj, and a lot of other folks too. So no worries. I will get these done in our next development call. So till then, have a nice day.
Yeah, and actually, I'll be so both Yash to facilitate maybe your recording, and I think Mario might have some questions for some of the other folks. I'll stop the YouTube live stream. We'll say thank you to everybody for coming. If you